What's up, guys? Welcome back to the vlog. I just got back from Colorado. I spent 5 days up in Silverton. The Razor's a mess, but it was a blast. The weather was absolutely amazing. In today's video, we're gonna be finishing up this air suspension. As soon as I got back, I jumped back onto it. I got a little bit more done. The height sensors really took a lot of time to figure out, but I think I got it figured out. I'll show you guys what I did so far and where we stand, and then we'll get this thing wrapped up and then hopefully get this thing back down on the ground. It's been on the lift for like 2 weeks. This suspension has actually been pretty challenging to figure it out. I've never actually installed air suspension before, so I gotta say this was probably one of the most difficult things I've done. It wasn't too bad once you kind of figure out the height sensor part. Other than that, everything else is pretty easy. It's really just the height sensors, but I'll show you what we got so far. In the rear, let's see, I got one height sensor mounted here with the rod jumping down to one of these lower arms. We got the sensor wires ran into the trunk just like we have the air wires. On the front side here, we got one height sensor here. I have to make sure we're not going to run into any clearance issues when the wheel turns. I don't think we will. I checked everything. I've taken the wheels and tires off several times, had to air the bags up and down, calculate the amount of travel. It really has been quite the challenge. I also got the RSR chassis code deletes. So we got the passenger side pretty much done. In today's video, we're gonna jump onto the front. I'll show you what we got, and we'll just go from there. Also, I cleaned up the trunk a little bit. We got just the tank and the compressor in here now. The air distribution block is gone. No more wires are exposed. Everything is actually underneath the carpet. I'm gonna pull this out in a little bit just to run the tank hose to the air distribution block. That's the last thing to run. So I'll show you what we got down there. And then one other thing, inside the car, as you can see, I bought this suction cup mount off Amazon for like 10 bucks, and it mounts the controller very well. Just sits right there, so it's out of the way. Still have plenty of space with the shifter, no interference at all. So for 10 bucks, that's actually really good. But let's jump into the driver's side here and get this thing knocked out. Alright guys, so we just got the front and rear chassis sensor deletes on. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of hard, but as you can see, we got the front one mounted here. It just mounts off this brake line bracket. And then on the rear, this one actually mounts up behind the wheel well here. So you have to take the whole wheel liner off, as you saw. You delete the smaller section of the wiring harness, then it just plugs right in and mounts up, and they give you the provided nut and everything, and it's pretty simple. So now we're gonna get the height sensors mounted. We're gonna get the brackets like kind of semi-fabricated, and then that should be about it. So we'll get those knocked out, and then we should be able to drop this thing down and test it out. Alright guys, so we just finished mounting the height sensors on the driver's side. I'll show you what we did. As you can see, we did the same thing on the passenger side. We mounted the height sensor here, and it bolts into the lower control arm here. And then in the front, same thing. We use that wheel well nut to mount our bracket. Sensor is mounted, and then we just drilled and tapped right into the control arm there. So everything's good, it's all tight, sensors are plugged in. I think we're just about there. There's not a lot of information on these height sensors on the internet. I've looked, I couldn't find too much information. These were really quite a challenge, but the best way I understand it, just in case anyone else is out there that is a little bit confused. Now this could be totally wrong. We'll see when this thing goes on the ground. We run our calibration mode. But basically what you're trying to figure out is the length of this arm needs to be the exact distance, so that when the suspension is at like full, like at its lowest point, that this doesn't go past 120 degrees, this arm. Now same thing when it's fully aired up, this arm can't go lower than 120 degrees. And they give you all the charts and the instructions. It helps a little bit, but it is kind of confusing. But same thing in the rear. I sort of mounted this one so that they're already at their like highest point, which is basically the arm's lowest point in the suspension because it is hanging on the lift. But like I said, we'll put it down on the ground, run the calibration mode, see if it's actually correct, and if it isn't, we'll just adjust it a little bit until we get it perfect, and then we'll test this thing out. Step, all we got to do is run the wire or the air line from the tank to the air block here. As you can see, we made some brackets. I saw this on a video on YouTube. It was actually a pretty good idea. So that's all mounted up with some angle brackets that I bent and re-welded and made it all look good. So we're good. All the wires tucked underneath. It's not the prettiest, but there's so much I'm not really sure what else to do with it. So that's going to sit there like that for now until we know everything works, and then maybe we'll clean it up later. But once we get that airline ran, that'll be the last step, and then we can test this thing out. Alright guys, before we get too far, I do want to show you something. I did just drop everything down and test clearance. Everything seems to be okay except this rear sensor. I did have it mounted here on a little bit of an angle, and it just wasn't enough room. It was so close. If I was running 10mm spacers on the back, it would have cleared. But I'm going to run no spacers just because I want to get the full amount of drop on this. So what I did is I just drilled a small hole right here, used a 3/4 self-tapper screw, and just went right in there, moved it back about 3/4 of an inch or so, and it's perfect. So it's really strong, really secure. If you're running into an issue, that's a great spot. At least I think we're still going to test everything, but we're using the full length of the rod that they provided. I think it's okay. Everything's nice and secure, if you can see that. So we just drilled our hole in the lower control arm, or lower arm there, and we are good. So we're going to drop this thing down and test this thing out. Alright, we just pulled the car out. Everything seems to be good. I still have the chassis lights on. I may have to pull the battery and just try and reset the system. Otherwise, we'll have to try and reset the codes a different way. But as you can see, controller is on. We just have to do the system calibration, which we will do now, and hopefully everything goes good. currently right in the middle of the calibration mode. It's going up and down. We're waiting for the air compressor to fill up some more air just so everything's good. But just take a look at that stance. That thing's so sick. It's so low to the ground. So far everything seems to be going good. We'll wait for this calibration to finish, and oh, there it goes. So just aired the front and rear up. Damn. Alright guys, so it is the next day here. In the last clip, I was in the middle of a calibration test, and we did actually fail. The driver's side rear height sensor arm was a little bit too long, and it wasn't allowing us to drop past 30 psi. But we just jacked that one side up, just so the rod height, and reran the calibration test. Everything's good, no issues at all. I actually have been driving it a little bit just to see. I kind of set the pre-height right here. One thing I do regret is I didn't measure the actual distance from the ground to the fender before I actually started this, so I don't really know what the ride height was before. I'll have to look that up and see if I can find it. But I set this kind of where I want it to be. We'll see how it rides, and then once we get the actual ride height set, we'll take it over to my buddy's shop, do an alignment, and get this thing all dialed in. As for the ride quality though, I really can't tell the difference between stock. This thing rides really good, surprisingly. I always heard, you know, air's a little bit bouncier, but really it drives really good. This is out of the box settings. I know there's like 30 points of adjustment on the dampeners. I haven't touched it yet, so we'll see if we want to stiffen that up or soften it up, you know, as we drive it. But as of right now, as you can see, this thing looks really good. I did bring a tripod with me, so we'll air this thing down. I did set like the show mode, so it'll slam itself to the ground really fast. I mean, it's like instantly dropping, or it instantly drops, and then you press the button, go back to ride height, raises really fast. So we'll set the camera up, I'll drop it down, show you guys what it looks like. So as you can see, it drops down really fast. Looks absolutely amazing. I also read somewhere that there's a piece you can buy, or a part that you can buy, that'll actually allow the car to air down evenly. I'm not really sure what it was. I read it a little while ago, so I'll have to dig into that and see. If anyone knows what that is, you know, drop a comment down below. I'd love to see. Also, if anyone has any questions on this kit or system, or where to mount height sensors, I could help you out the best I can. I have it pretty much figured out now. It's really not too hard once you do it the first time, but you know, drop a comment if you have any questions. But on another note, I did just get the next major mod for this car. So the box is sitting in my garage at home. In the next video, we are going to be unboxing that thing and showing you guys what it is. So I'm really excited to get started on that. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video if you found it interesting, and I will see you guys in the next one.